attraction and affection. The author, Tesla Di Murbox, explores the nature and history of imps, presenting them as minor entities that can be controlled by humans.
IMPs and love magic. Okay, you definitely piqued my curiosity with this one. Let's unpack this IMP Love A5 PDF you sent over.
This one's a doozy. Get ready for a wild ride.
I am so ready. So it's about creating an IMP specifically for matters of the heart named Shura, right? And this source, wow, serious grimoire vibes.
It's a fascinating blend for sure. You've got folklore, demonology, and even practical spell work all mixed in.
And the way it connects this IMP Chura to the demon Belphegor, well, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, not your typical love potion ingredient.
Right. Belphegor isn't who comes to mind on Valentine's Day, but the source claims there's a method to this madness, some link to balanced love.
And that's where things get really interesting. Belphegor is traditionally about achieving goals, wealth, pleasure, success, but like with minimal effort. So the source suggests that by tapping into that energy, you can actually cultivate a relationship built on contentment and shared enjoyment, leading to a stronger bond in the long run.
So instead of that initial spark, it's about building a lasting foundation of, well, I guess, mutual pleasure and prosperity. That's kind of cool, actually.
And a little unexpected, which I appreciate.
Definitely flips the whole love potion idea on its head.
Exactly. And there's another layer. The source emphasizes how IMPs, unlike pre-made talismans or charms, become more powerful the more you work with them. It's about nurturing a magical partnership over time.
Like a magical wingman or wingwoman who's always got your back and your heart in their best interest. I like it. But before we get too far into the love stuff, let's rewind for a sec. For those of us newer to this whole IMP thing, what exactly are we dealing with here?
$1,000,000 question. And honestly, you'd be surprised how many seasoned magic practitioners debate what IMPs truly are. Are they like tiny humans with wings? Are they thought forms we create? Or something else entirely?
It's like trying to catch smoke. Dibrades, little devils, familiars, goblins. I mean, where do you even begin to pin down what makes an IMP an IMP?
The source hourly does a deep dive into etymology, which is helpful, believe it or not. The word IMP alone is super revealing. It comes from the Old English word for young shoot, like a plant.
So starting small and innocent, but then over time, things take a turn for the demonic.
Precisely. And the source maps that whole evolution from young shoot to terms like devil urchin or hell urchin in the Middle Ages. You can practically see those monks getting spooked.
Okay, I get the medieval monk connection now, but are they straight up miniature demons then? Like little red dudes with pitchforks?
Not necessarily. The source seems to think they're more mischievous than inherently evil. It actually links them to goblins from like old Germanic folklore who weren't always considered bad guys,
More like tricksters than devils. I can vibe with that.
And this actually connects to this fascinating bit from the source. Apparently, there's this whole demonology system from the 15th century that classifies IMPs as a type of goblin.
Wait, hold up. A whole system just for demons? Someone had a lot of time on their hands.
Right, but it shows you IMPs have a history that goes way beyond just like fantasy novels and stuff.
Oh yeah, speaking of IMPs lurking in unexpected places, your source introduces us to Chura, an IMP with a very specific purpose, love magic. And get this, his power comes from a demon not exactly known for romance. Belphegor.
Okay.
So Belphegor and love magic, huh? Gotta admit, I wasn't expecting that. He's not exactly giving off Cupid vibes, is he?
Yeah, he's definitely more about those earthly delights than shooting arrows. But the source actually makes a pretty clever connection. So Belphegor's power is all about achieving your goals, right? Wealth, pleasure, success, and this is key, with minimal effort.
The ultimate easy button kind of guy.
Exactly. And the source suggests that by tapping into that energy, you can actually cultivate a relationship that's built on this deep contentment, this like shared enjoyment that ultimately leads to a stronger bond because you're not constantly struggling.
So less about that initial spark, more about building a foundation that can weather any storm.
You got it. It's about those long, lazy days on the beach, but like in relationship form.
Okay, I'm kind of digging this whole effortless love concept. And I'm guessing this is where Belphegor's shadow side comes in. Too much of a good thing can be, well, too much.
Right. And the source totally addresses that. It specifically warns about falling into a pattern of complacency where, like, you get too comfortable and the relationship just kind of stagnates.
Because let's be real, even paradise can get boring after a while.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. You want Belphegor's help in creating ease and abundance, but you don't want to fall asleep at the wheel, you know?
It's like they say, relationships take work, even magical ones. Speaking of which, once we've acknowledged our pal Belphegor, the source dives into actually creating chura, and honestly, the method is surprisingly simple.
Right. It basically boils down to using a simple bottle as a vessel for chura, and then there's this big emphasis on adding offerings and gifts to the bottle over time.
Okay, so it's not just a one-and-done kind of spell. It sounds more like building an actual relationship with chura, almost like nurturing a friendship, but with, a magical twist. What kind of offerings are we talking about here?
So it's a little vague on the specifics, but it does suggest that the offering should be tailored to, like, chura's connection to Belphegor and your specific desires for love.
Makes sense. Got to personalize that magical assistance, right?
Exactly. But the key takeaway is that the more you put into this relationship with chura, the more potent he becomes.
Okay, I'm going to need you to elaborate on that because that is fascinating. So it's like we're creating this evolving energy, this .imp buddy system.
I like that, the IMP buddy system. And yes, that's exactly it. The more energy and intention we direct towards chura, the stronger and more aligned with our desires he becomes.
Okay, so we've basically brewed up our IMP pal Chura, but now for the really fun part, putting him to work. What kind of love magic are we talking about here? So many possibilities. Give me the rundown. What kind of love magic can we work with Chura?
Well, the source covers a lot, which makes sense, right? Love's complicated. But one that jumped out at me was this whole self-love ritual. It stresses how important it is to have a healthy relationship with yourself before you can really be open to love from others.
Right, like the whole you can't pour from an empty cup thing.
Exactly. And it actually ties back to Belphegor in a way. Remember how we were talking about indulgence and satisfaction? Well, it starts with recognizing that you're worthy of those things in the first place.
Love that. Okay, what else? I'm ready for more.
There's a ritual for attracting your soulmate that I thought was super interesting. And I want to be clear, it's not about forcing a connection with some specific person. It's more about, like, aligning yourself with the energy of your ideal partner, which again plays on Belphegor's whole thing as a facilitator.
So less love spell, more like setting the stage for love to happen naturally.
Exactly. The source even talks about using a specific kind of incense for this one, something known for, like attracting positive energy and opening up the heart chakra.
Ooh, details.
Ah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anything for people who are already coupled up.
Oh, tons. The source has rituals for practically every relationship issue under the sun.
Right.
Like there's one for repairing a friendship using honey, which represents, sweetness and reconciliation and all that.
Honey magic. Classic and delicious.
Right. And then there's another one for protecting a loving relationship that involves using a piece of fabric that both partners have slept on.
Yeah.
You basically kind of like charge it up with their shared energy and then offer it to chura.
Okay, that one's got a real power intention vibe to it.
Totally. And the source really hammers home the visualization aspect here, like really picturing the outcome you want in vivid detail.
Got it. Visualize, manifest, all that jazz.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for anyone trying to move on from a past relationship, there's a disconnection from the past spell that's incredibly powerful.
Ooh, tell me more. How does it work?
It involves writing down all the negative feelings and memories associated with the relationship on little scraps of paper. Then you feed them to chura, which symbolizes, like, releasing those burdens and creating space for something new.
Wow. Out with the old, in with the new. I like it. So we've got self-love, attracting a soulmate, mending fences, protection, letting go, all with this one IMP we've created. That's quite the magical toolkit.
Right. And the source actually hints at something else that's super cool. It talks about how chura will continue to grow stronger over time, and even suggests that you could pass this magical knowledge, and even chura himself, down through your family.
Wait, seriously, like a magical family heirloom?
Yeah, it's about building this, like, lineage of love magic, drawing on the energy and wisdom of everyone who came before you.
Pretty wild, right?
Definitely a lot to think about. It's like that saying, the course of true love never did run smooth, but maybe with a little help from our IMP friend Chura, we can navigate those bumps with a little more grace and, yeah, maybe a little magic. I love that. And I think it's a good reminder that some of the most potent magic comes from understanding ourselves and, like, really owning the love we're capable of giving and receiving.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, to all our listeners out there exploring the world of IMPs and love magic, we hope this deep dive has sparked some inspiration and maybe even giving you a few ideas to play with. Until next time, happy conjuring.
Text details the origin, history,